Okay, this video is going to be short, and then it's a little guide on writing an introduction. So again, let's start by looking at the link on the course website under Technical Report Draft 1. I'm going to scroll down to Introduction. I have the introduction here split up into 4 steps. Basically, the purpose of the introduction is establishing a context for the experiment. So step 1 is for you to go ahead and to briefly describe what is leading you to the question being addressed in the experiment. This will also require a little bit of a background to the research question. So for example, in the experiment of second order systems, you would describe what a second order system is and give a few examples of such systems. And that would include also any equations that would be used to describe the system. Step 2 is to describe the application of the general research area that the question addresses. So how would answering the question be applied to the research field? So in examples of second order systems, you would explain how knowing the values, for example, of certain parameters for a second order system are helpful in design or helpful in being able to describe the system. Step 3 is a paragraph which is meant for you to lead into the objective of the experiment. And then also, it is also important to establish the scope or the context of the experiment. And then step 4 is to state your hypothesis. Okay. Once you write up your intro, you can go over to Technical Report Draft 2. Scroll down to Introduction, and what it has here are the 3 areas under which the introduction will be evaluated. Those 3 areas are indicated on the evaluation for Draft 1 of the technical report. So actually, why don't I go ahead, go to Forms and Documents, click on Technical Report Draft 1 Evaluation, and we can look briefly at what the criterion are for which the introduction will be evaluated. So give this a second to, it's a little blurry and hard to see at this point. There we go, it's starting to clear up a little bit. In case you can't read it, the introduction is based off 3 criterion. The first one is successfully establishes the scientific of the lab with a background. So what you're required to do is to, there we go, that's much more clear, is to establish a scientific concept of the lab with a background. And then the second criterion is to is based on whether or not you effectively present the objectives and the purpose of the lab. And then the third criterion is how you state the hypothesis and how you provide logical reasoning for that hypothesis. So with that said, after you write a draft, you can go here, or even before you can read the extra help given under Draft 2. Scroll down to, sorry, I went too far, Introduction here. You have successfully establishes the scientific lab of the experiment with a background. Gives you some help on that. Effectively presents the objective and purpose of the lab. Again, there's a lot of help here. And then third criterion states hypothesis and provides logical reasoning for it. I'm not going to read everything here. You can do that on your own, but there's some extra help here. And then finally, of course, if you go under Forms and Documents, under Technical Report Example, there is an introduction written for a study that I did a number of years ago. Let's just scroll down. You can see the introduction here, background, then my hypothesis is stated, and then there's notes here where I just note a few things that are important to look at. Main objectives are stated, the hypothesis is clear, it's not too long, and a brief background is given. So that's all the material. I know this video is short, went through it quickly, but again, the point is just to make sure that you understand the resources available to you to help draft your introduction. Again, I'm here if you have any questions on that, but this concludes the introductory video.